Leanne Linsky, comedian turned entrepreneur, and the founder and CEO of Plauzzable, a live comedy platform designed to bring comedians, producers, venues, and audiences together, both online and in person. Leanne's comedy journey began in 2001. 5 years later, she moved to New York to pursue comedy full time, performing, producing, and hosting shows for years, including a weekly open mic and a stand-up show in New York's East Village. She also wrote, performed, and produced her own critically acclaimed one-woman show. What began as an experiment with online open mics eventually became a larger vision, creating infrastructure designed for live comedy. Today, Plauzzable helps comedians and producers create events, build audiences, sell tickets, and connect with comedy fans around the world, both online and in person. Leanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
All right, so take us back to 2001. What made you walk into your very first comedy class?
So at the time in 2001, I was working for a large corporation and I did a lot of public speaking and event planning in addition to my other roles in the company. And I decided I wanted to start doing, I wanted to incorporate like a stand-up monologue, like late night TV, Johnny Carson style monologue into one of my presentations. And I was like, well, how do I go about doing that? How do I write this out? So I found a class at the local university that was all about comedy writing. And I thought, perfect, I'll sign up and take that class. And I absolutely loved the process. And I wrote my first set of jokes, which was horrible, but I really loved the process and the learning it. And I knew that it was something I wanted to pursue. So eventually, a little while later, coworkers encouraged me to take improv comedy classes at the Second City Training Center, which happened to be in Las Vegas at the time. They had a training center that they had opened up. And I was like, wait, what? So that's kind of how I got started. It was because I was trying to do something for another type of event. And it was kind of a happy accident.
All right. So, Leanne, what did you discover about yourself through those early years of performing comedy?
What did I learn about myself? Was that a lot of comedy comes... doing stand-up is different than just being funny in a room full of friends, and that there's a definite skill set associated with it, and it takes practice, like being a musician or an artist. And I really learned through the process of writing jokes that it gave me new perspective. Instead of just writing the way I could see the world, I could write it from someone else's point of view or a different point of view, or explore those ideas and new perspectives to see what would make it funny. Or so I learned a lot, forced me to see my life experiences from a different point of view. And that brought me a lot of joy and healing from even things, because we often write about things that hurt us most, or they often say tragedy plus time equals comedy. So I think when it comes to writing about relationships or work experiences or different things where it may have felt painful at first, comedy was a way to kind of crack that open and look at it from a new perspective and heal from it.
Okay. So you also created a one-woman show. What did putting your own story on stage teach you about vulnerability and connecting with an audience?
Super important, right? Being vulnerable on stage is one of the beautiful ways to connect with an audience, because if you're talking about, I think the more honest and truthful I am on stage, the deeper the connection with the audience. It builds trust. They're there with you along for the ride. And, it's It's a beautiful journey. I think it's really important. It's easy to laugh about things on the surface or whatever and get a chuckle here or there. But really, when we're opening up and sharing something that's more personal, it brings people in closer. It removes that, although we're on stage and there's a fourth wall where we're not necessarily talking directly to an audience all the time. Like in my one woman show, I wasn't breaking what we call that fourth wall and talking directly to audience members or doing crowd work or anything. It was a performance. Yet being vulnerable allows us to still connect without having that direct interaction, eye contact, one-on-one conversation. So it's just a beautiful transformation of how to bring art to life.
Okay. So at what point did you realize the bigger problem wasn't simply finding somewhere to perform? It was the infrastructure surrounding live comedy.
So when it came to building Plauzzable, similar to me getting into comedy in the first place, it was, just wanting to learn something for something else and then ended up falling in love with it. When I was building Plauzzable, initially it was just to solve a problem that I was having and in my own experience of being a comedian, because I had moved from New York to Los Angeles area. And in New York, it was fairly easy to get around the city. And when I got to LA, because everything's so spread out, it took a lot of time in traffic and a lot of gas money. And it was just more difficult and time consuming to get around due to the difference in geographics and transportation method. So I was like, how do I solve that problem? And at the same time, before I even got to LA, I was like, wow, how do I stay connected with all the people I became friends with in the comedy community in New York? How do I do that besides the telephone? And I was like, oh, maybe Skype or, maybe Zoom, because this is way back. I made the move in 2014, the end of 2014, beginning of 2015. So this was a long time ago, right? And I was like, how do I stay connected? And then I got to LA and my problem became, oh my gosh, how do I even stay connected here? Because it just takes forever to get somewhere. And how do I bridge that gap? So when I started experimenting eventually with everything online, so I had that idea rolling around, and then I didn't do anything with it until August of 2019. Again, BC, before COVID, right? And then I started doing things online and experimenting just so I could save time and I could stay connected with people across the country. Well, then that I started realizing, wow, there's more problems to be solved. There's bigger things I could do with this idea of taking things online. So it was around 2019 where I was like, maybe this is something. Like, what if we could solve the problems of how comedians get paid, giving comedians permission to go out and produce and create without having gatekeepers or algorithms or all of these other hoops to jump through. So that's really when I started thinking bigger in terms of like a bigger platform and building an infrastructure where everything's all in one spot. So that's kind of how it came about. It started as a very simple, how do I solve this problem for myself? Oh, more people are having this problem. Okay, use existing technologies, but they're great and they're getting us connected, but they're not built for this. So how do I build something built for exactly the people I'm dealing with, which are comedians? They're not super tech savvy and they don't always want to cobble together a zillion apps to do something. They just want to go, they want to perform, and they want to create. So that's how that turned out that way. It was really just every time I took an action about how do I solve this problem, I discovered other things I could do with that or solve other problems.
Okay, Leanne. So I love women who are funny, women in comedy, honestly. So let's talk about the business side of comedy. Why is it difficult for talented comedians to turn their craft into a sustainable income?
Oh, what a good question. And there's so many ways, I guess, to answer that. So there's a lot of things. A lot of people aren't able to turn their comedy into, not unable to monetize it for various reasons. There are some people who just aren't sure how, right? There are other people who follow more of a traditional road to success where they wait to get booked and then they accept the payment that those bookers are offering, which is often nothing, especially when people are starting out, they're not paid at all, or we're required to take classes at a theater or a venue and then get known there and then maybe get a spot or two, or they have to sell tickets and bring a certain number of people. So a lot of people, like I mentioned, one, they don't know how. Two, they follow a traditional route of the rules that are set by others. And then there's three, there's comedians out there who are like, I'm not going to wait for someone else to decide to pay me. I'm going to go out and create my own opportunities. And those people produce their own shows, their own open mics, their own content on YouTube or whatever path they decide to follow. They go out and they create their own. And then there are like another set of people, so let's call this number 4, where maybe they didn't know, they start finding out, and they go down multiple paths of, they still get booked at venues, but in addition to that, they start creating their own shows and their own opportunities to do it. So there's various ways that people can go out and get it. On the flip side of that, a lot of people who are not performers or not comedians don't pay for it. Sometimes when comedians are going out and they're new, they often put up shows for free or open mics. I know I did. And people happen to be in the bar or restaurant and, oh, there's a comedy show tonight. I didn't know. We'll enjoy that. Oftentimes people will leave tips and that can be divvied up. But, comedy, unless the comedians are performing in an actual comedy venue, a comedy club per se, then, tickets aren't always sold. It's just something that happens to be for the evening. And comedians it's like musicians. You see people busking, we call it busking, buskers are out on the street and they're performing on the street for tips and things like that. So, it's just kind of been a long history of not having the value put on the art. It's like artists. Sometimes you see beautiful paintings, but they're selling them on the street, or they give them, people make something beautiful and they give it away. It's not always perceived to have the value that maybe some of these other occupations have, which is very unfortunate. And that's another reason why I created Plauzzable, because I wanted to put the monetization in the control of the creator, so that if they spend, days, months, weeks, whatever, creating a show, creating something, then they can put a value on that and they can invite people to come see it and pay a specific price for it, rather than having someone else tell them no. So that's what Plauzzable is designed to do, is give people permission to ask to be paid for their talent. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense, Leanne. So, still on the business of being funny, how important is community to the future of comedy?
How important is community?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's vital. If someone tells a joke and no one's around to laugh at it, was it even funny? It's, I think it's really important to have community. Even though as a comedian, we're standing on the stage solo by ourselves up there, there's a lot that goes on before that solo performance. We go to open mics, we get feedback from our peers or mentors. We try out jokes with our, in front of others, whether they're fellow comedians or teachers or fans or strangers or whatever it may be. And that community is vital. That's how we get feedback. That's how we know if is this funny? How could it be funnier? And I think that's where the joy of laughing is, sharing it with others. Sharing laughter is important, and it's all about community, really. And I'm currently hosting events on Plauzzable for a creator program. And one of the first things I really heard all of the people who signed up for it say is like, wow, it's really nice to have a community and to have a place where other people understand what I'm trying to do or support me or encourage me, give me feedback so that I'm not living in a vacuum. It's nice to know we're not alone. I think that's a human thing. I don't think we weren't designed or made to be alone. Community is a vital part of anything we do. What an interesting question. You've got me thinking, but there's not like one simple answer. There's so many answers about why community is important and vital.
Yeah, I always ask the best of questions that gets my guests thinking. Okay, so the future of comedy now. What would you like Plauzzable to change about the lives and careers of comedians?
What I'd really like to see Plauzzable do is empower more comedians, give people permission to create, to bring their ideas to life, to share those things with others, to share in laughter and to build community. I'm really excited every time a new person signs up and becomes a member of our community, and to see them keep coming back and making connections and making a difference. I mean, so Plauzzable do is become the ultimate place for that comedy community, and for people to come and feel like, wow, I belong here. I get so much, joy and growth from being here. That's where I want to see Plauzzable at.
Okay, so if you could go back and talk to the Leanne who walked into the first comedy class in 2001, what would you tell her?
Oh, wow. I would tell her, yay, good move. And also, wow. Very, I think, honestly, I would tell her to take more action sooner. Don't wait, run, don't walk. Put your ideas out there and see what happens. Experiment more, and take more action sooner. That's the thing that I see, because oftentimes, I think I can speak from my own experience, but I see this in others too. We tend to hesitate, or I did, with some things not so much, but other things it's like talking to you about, I had the idea to do stuff online way back in 2014, 2015 when I initially made the move, but then I held off. Wow. What if I had just done it way back then? How much farther ahead I would be with Plauzzable, even before the pandemic hit. Like, wow. So, and I think about, I finally moved from Las Vegas to New York after 5 years of taking comedy classes and doing things. What happens if I would have moved there sooner, or had done something else, sooner? Or what if I had been, what if I hadn't taken my first comedy class in 2001? What if I had taken it, in 1992 when I was still in college or had just graduated college, right? So there's always what if I had done something sooner, and how much farther ahead would I be? So that would be the advice, is run, don't walk, go for it.
Great advice. Thank you. So finally, Why do you believe the world needs more live comedy? Because recently, I think live comedy is kind of people are do more of skits and less live comedy, right?
I think there'll be more live comedy?
I think
Um,
people do more of social media comedies, short skits than live comedy.
okay, yeah. So I think that's a great observation. I think more people do because more people have access to social media than they do to actually getting booked in a live comedy venue. So yeah, we probably are seeing more people do things online because online is more accessible. How that said, I think that live in-person comedy will always be vital.
What does success look like for you personally for Plausible?
What does success look like for me? I think that the community growing substantially um, would be extremely successful. I would like to see, although we continue to grow regularly, I'm excited to see that continued growth and I would like to see it accelerate. That would be amazing to see a lot more people creating, producing, and realizing that they have the freedom to do so on our platform.
All right, so Leanne, thank you for taking us behind the scenes of comedy. Not just the laughs we see on stage, but the people, opportunities, technology, and business infrastructure that make those moments possible. So, Leanne, for those who, okay, before you go, is there a question you wish I would have asked you that I have not asked you? Or more like something that you would like to share with me and my audience that I'm yet to ask you?
I think if you were to have asked me, like, what advice would I give someone considering doing comedy or creating something, whatever that is in the world, in the arts, my advice would be, you know what, if you have the idea, take one action today toward putting that into motion. You know, share your idea with a friend, create a small version of your idea and share it with a few people on social media or within your community and get feedback on it to see if it's something that you can take an additional action on and maybe pursue. And if the answer is, yeah, then take the next action. And then if it's not, what else could you do with that idea? Or is there an adjacent idea or another idea you have rolling around in your head? So I think if you would have asked me, what advice would I give to someone who wants to create something, I would say take an action today. It doesn't have to be big, but it just has to be a step.
Okay, wonderful. Because, Leanne, I love to give my guests the platform to make sure we're able to express themselves fully and talk about everything they would like to talk about to my audience. And I believe and I hope I've been able to do that with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so once again, for those who would like to connect with you and learn more about the plausible comedy and what you are building and doing with comedy, how can they do that?
They can go to plauzzable.com, PLAUZZABLE.com, and sign up and create a free account. Explore in our comedian directory, all the comedians that are on there, see what you like. You can also go through all the event listings that are happening online or even in your area. So yeah, take a look around, check it out.
Okay, thank you so much, Leanne. I really appreciate you. Thank you for taking us behind the scenes of comedy. The journey from comedian and producer to entrepreneur shows what can happen when you don't simply complain about a problem. You decide to build the solution. And perhaps that is one of the hidden secrets behind every successful creative career. Sometimes the biggest opportunity isn't finding your stage, it is creating one for yourself. And Leanne has given us the blueprint for it, and I hope we can learn from her. Thank you so much for coming to my show and have a wonderful day. And to my audience, I will see you guys on the next episode. I love you guys so much. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you so much.